Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah, coming to you guys in California. Before I begin, give all praise to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the Earthly Mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledge it, Yahweh Shai. I pray the Most High blesses this lesson this evening, gives more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past in order to understand events that are currently happening on the earth, so we get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. You know, history repeats itself, and you always hear about, man, there's been these bad laws, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to come together as politicians and we're going to revise these laws. We're going to change these laws. We're going to make these laws fair. And there's always something that comes along that keeps status quo going. This was also going on by the churches and their treatment of the Israelites or the Jews during the time of the Inquisition. You know, they knew that they were messing up, and they knew that, hey, this is not going to go well, man, because if this stuff comes out, we're not going to look too good. So, they talked about making changes, but remember, we were under the curses. So even if they gave lip services to how they were going to fix things, apparently, as you can see, nothing got fixed. But what I want to do is I want to show you some of the proposed changes to the Inquisition. And from the changes, you can realize the fact that these were the tactics or the practices of the church. Now, I don't know how you can act like you're somehow so holy and whatever else when you're breaking all these commandments of coveting. You're coveting everything the Jews had. You're bearing false witness. You're just lying about things, making false accusations about people. And that's what they still do even today. And then you're murdering people by actually upholding these false charges on people, just like they did now. They cook the books, they make false charges against our people, put them in prison for crimes they never committed. That's how the Israelites are who they are. Okay, because these were things that were going to happen to the Israelites all the way until the end. See, I don't care what people say. People are, oh, you're a black Hebrew. Like, you guys don't have any proof. You don't have any DNA. You don't have any this. You don't know your history. And all the stuff they're talking about, man, that just proves who we are. That just proves the fact that we are fulfilling the scriptures in the Bible. So this is what happens when you really don't use the Bible to actually guide your thoughts. When you put more, credence in a DNA test than what the Most High says in the Word, that's why so many people are so lost. They want to believe the lie. So please continue lying to those people. They want to believe it. Hey, you can keep them. We don't need those. Most High is not calling them. Enjoy deceiving them. But let's take a look at some of the proposed changes for the practices of the Inquisition. Again, we're getting here with my man here, Juan Antonio Llorente, Critical History of the Inquisition of Spain. Like I tell people, we have so much information. We have so many different directions that we can go and see. I'm not even talking about the things going on right now. I'm not talking about, the BRICS nations right now. I'm not talking about the hurricane going on, getting ready to is happening right here in Mexico, and the storms up to hit Southern California. I'm not talking about Maui and the fires. There's so many other things I could be talking about as well, but the Most High has me right here, right now, exposing this history of this so-called church that loves to portray themselves as being so godly, and all these people that are complicit with them by allowing them to hide their history. If you want to hide their history and say, well, that was in the past, well, that's fine. But see, the Most High doesn't, he doesn't agree with your sentiment. He doesn't. He's not the one that's gonna be like, oh, that happened in the past. Oh man, I forgot about that, man. I'm gonna just dap it up real quick and just keep it moving. Most High is not like that. If you guys want to be like that, and if you want to excuse them, go right ahead. You can get this cup of drag that's coming just like they're gonna get. That's your choice. Okay, so the English edition published in 1823. So right here, let's get into this real quick. Page 86. We're just gonna go over a couple of pages. That's all we need to. I mean, I'm gonna go over some more later on, but check it out. See if this is kind of some of the same practices that they were employing over here. Okay. Let's see. I'm going over here more towards the top. That it shall be only employed. Oh, I'm talking about torture. Let me read a little bit of 85 before, so you can kind of get the hint, get the whole experience of what's going on here real fast. We'll do a little bit about how they use torture. Because see, they were concealing the names of witnesses, people who were, making these accusations. So that it's on page 85. That in this case, in order to conceal the names of the witnesses, the judge shall draw up a writing declaring upon oath that he believes this measure to be necessary for the preservation of lives of the witnesses. That this act shall deprive the prisoner of his right of appealing against it. That if it is considered absolutely necessary to make use, okay, now we're here at 86, of the torture, it shall only be administered in moderation and without reoccurring to the cruel inventions hitherto employed. See, these are changes that they wanted to make. So they're using torture, but it's saying, well, we're going to change it so it shall only be administered in moderation, as opposed to just going all out. They were just going to do it in moderation and without recurring to the cruel inventions hitherto employed. This is your church. Let's continue. That it shall only be employed once for what personally concerns the accused, never to obtain from him information of other individuals, and only in the case of persons mentioned in the law. See, they're using torture to get you to, to snitch on other people. Again, this is your church, so if you want to be down with this, is the history. This is the Most High knows about everything they've done, all the torturing, all the killing, and He's going to hold them to account. That the definitive sentence and even the interlocutory orders shall be subject to the right of appeal as to their double effect. That when the preparatory examination of the judgment is commenced, the parties and their counsel may attend at this revision of the process and demand that the reading may be made in their presence. See, all these things are being reading not in the presence of the people. Just like they had these declarations that need to be read to the natives, right? Giving them the opportunity to accept the king and queen's authority and the pope's authority. But we know they would be reading those things in the middle of the night when everyone's asleep, miles away. So then they could just come in, rape, rob, murder, and steal. They didn't even give the people an opportunity to hear, their options. Same thing here. Let's continue. That if the proof of the crime is not then established, the prisoner shall be acquitted without being liable to a punishment as being still suspected. See, they're still punishing people even after they're acquitted. They're still getting punished. Is that these are the changes that they're trying to make, okay? These changes were not implemented. These are the ones that they're trying to implement. Okay? That if the accused desires to clear himself on oath, he shall be allowed to seek witnesses and to converse with them in private, and that their being descendants of the Jews shall not prevent their admission. You see that right there? So again, their being descendants of the Jews shall not prevent their admission. So they weren't even allowed to testify in their own, for themselves. They weren't even the Jews weren't allowed to testify for other Jews because they had Israelite blood in them. Is that not the same thing they had here, where you couldn't even as if you're a native or whatever else, that you couldn't even make an accusation against certain people. You couldn't even go into a court and testify. So see, the same tactics they were employing over here, they had been already doing over there. These are your churches right here. And I don't want to hear it. I'm sorry, mistakes were made. Hell no. You ain't going to get off that easy. You guys were well aware of these things. You're well aware these things were wrong. But you wanted that money. You wanted that bag. You wanted their status. You wanted everything that pertained to them. So you made up these laws where you just, make accusations. You don't allow them to defend themselves. You don't allow them to call witnesses. They can't even talk to witnesses, in private. None of that. Continue. That the challenge of witnesses shall be permitted. And if one of those called by the procurator fiscal is convicted of giving false testimony, he shall be subject to the punishment of retaliation, according to a law of Ferdinand and Isabella in the beginning of their reign. So it looks as if these people are making false accusations and they get caught. Then they're going to have to suffer some punishment. But apparently that probably wasn't even being handled. So again, that the challenge of witnesses shall be permitted. And if one of those called by the procurator fiscal is convicted of giving false testimony, he shall be subject to the punishment of retaliation. See, they can just give false testimony and no one checks them. You see what I'm saying? That's what they did with the law enforcement, right? Or whatever they say goes. They won't lie. They'll never tell. They never lie. They always tell the truth. But then even when you catch them in a lie, nothing happens to them. Remember, just like when they put our people in prison for a crime that they didn't do, and there was all this evidence that was being withheld that could have cleared them, do they ever go back and go after the prosecutors? Do they ever go back and go after the cops that were lying? Do they ever go back over the witnesses that were lying? Nope. Exactly the same things were going on back then. You see how this is all working together, hand in hand. This is all their history. These are all their records that they kept. And these were changes that they were trying to make. Just like, when things were happening with George Floyd, we're going to change this and we're going to change that, and nothing ever gets changed. They just give you a bunch of lip service. Nothing new. So let's continue. That when an accused person has been reconciled, he shall not be arrested for things which he has not confessed, being because it is to be supposed that he forgot them. All right. That no persons shall be molested or imprisoned for a simple presumption of heresy, arising from their having been brought up among Jews or heretics. See, Jews and heretics are the same people. That's the same thing. So pretty much if you're just brought up around us, you're going down with us. This is your church right here. This is their history. These are the things that they were doing. So again, that no person shall be molested or imprisoned for a simple presumption of heresy arising from their having been brought up among Jews or heretics. So if you just hung out with us, that's it for you. There are people who are being imprisoned and killed for this. This is your church. Then all of a sudden now they're all about love, right? This is their history. Now understand this. I understand this. This is the history the Most High is going to be judging them on, not the love BS that they've been pushing on you in these churches today. He knows their history. He knows their secrets. Let's continue. That the sanbenitos shall be taken out of the churches, and that they no longer be worn in the streets. That the punishment of perpetual imprisonment shall be abolished. I guess you just can't be put into prison just forever. Okay, that's it. These are all just these are some changes we need to make. Just like it goes to Congress and they want to make these changes, and then the bills die. Nothing ever happens. Same thing. Oh, we're gonna make these changes. We gotta make things fair. We're gonna make things right. Okay. It says because the prisoners die of hunger and cannot serve God. That the statutes recently established to prevent new Christians from being admitted into convents shall be considered as null and void, because they are contrary to all laws, human and divine. So you Christians are Jews that convert to their Catholic religion. That's what a new Christian is. That where an individual is sentenced to imprisonment, an inventory shall be taken of his property, and they shall not be sequestered or sold. Yeah, they just you're going to put him in prison, but when he comes back out, he should be able to get his stuff back, right? Well, apparently to them, he ain't never coming out. So we've taken all of his stuff. He's never coming out, and we'll damn sure make sure of that. You see what I'm saying? It says that he and his wife and children shall possess his revenues during his detention, and shall be allowed to employ them to prepare his means of defense against the Inquisition. So apparently, that was not a practice. The wife and the children are getting kicked out. Churches just taking everything, right? Just from an accusation. That when a man is condemned, his children shall inherit his property. See, in the Bible, isn't that how it is? That the children should be inheriting the man's property, right? But the church, so I guess y'all don't follow the Bible that well, huh? Because y'all oh no, the church is coming to take, we're taking everything. It says that no donation shall be made on their property until it has been definitely confiscated. So they just use it. Hey man, just make his accusation. I like his house. Accuse him of heresy. All right, I'm taking the house. See what I'm saying? That's what you guys are doing. This is your church. That the spirit and letter of the canon shall be compiled or complied with, in all things, okay, without regard to any particular custom previously in use, that the king shall be supplicated to obtain a bull from the Pope to ratify these measures. Okay? That until this bull is obtained, the king shall be requested to command the inquisitors to conform to these regulations, and the trials already commenced, and in those which may begin from this time. And this has been 1518. Okay? But let's find out if, hey, man, I'm sure that these good Christians right here were going to implement these changes and make things more fair, right? Because that's what they were really concerned with. So let's find out. This excellent code of laws was never put in execution because the Chancellor, Salvacchio, who framed it, died before its publication. And Cardinal Adrian so totally changed the ideas and inclinations of Charles V that he became an ardent defender of the Inquisition. So, like usual, they talk about how they're going to change this and change that. We're going to make things right. We understand that the system's been unfair, but we see that. We know those changes need to be made, so we'll do that. And then something happens. It seems to be happening quite a bit in this book, how people who wanted to make changes end up dead. They end up unalived real quick. It doesn't seem to matter what position they hold. They get killed real quick. So those were just a couple of the changes that were proposed to the Inquisition that these good Christians never executed. So they kept doing the same things they've always done. And when you look up history of the Inquisition, you don't get any of this. You get maybe a little couple paragraphs. You get the years that it started, years that it ended, and then that's pretty much it. Because they're hiding their history. Why do you think the Most High is coming back? Why his sword is bathed in blood? Because the Most High has seen all these things. This is talking about the altar of the souls that are underneath the altar, asking the Most High for recompense. Now you're seeing why. Because these people, all of our people here were murdered unjustly. This is why they got to make up a whole, oh man, it's an Antichrist coming in the future. He's going to do all these things in 7 years. What it took us a few hundred years to do, a few thousand years to do, this guy's going to come and do it in 7. He's going to be horrible. Yeah, well, you guys had a few thousand years, a couple thousand years to kill and destroy and hide everything. And what your actions fit those scriptures to the T. So I'm going to believe really that you've already done these things. And that's why all these things are happening now, because your blessing is a wrap. All praise is Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledge Yahweh Shai. Shalom.